Alright, what's up everybody? It's your boy Akeen and welcome to the Sports News Insider College Football Vlog. Here to round up all my BCS previews. Today, it's time to talk about the BCS Busters. Headline stories to begin with: Boise State is now part of the Mountain West Conference. They jumped shift coming from the WAC Conference and joined the Mountain West, joining TCU. Now for TCU, this is their final year in the Mountain West because next season they're going to join the Big East Conference. This is going to be a great year for this conference because Boise State and TCU will face each other later in this season. This is going to be a great year. Now Boise State pretty much made a statement this season, especially from Coach Peterson. He decided to decline the job coaching at Stanford and decided to stay at Idaho in the blue turf field to coach the Broncos. This is a big time statement nationally and to get good recognition for Boise State. If they stay undefeated and go to that national championship, it's going to be a big year for Coach Peterson and the Broncos. Definitely look out for this team. Now BYU, they decided to jump shift as well. From leaving the Mountain West Conference, they decided to go independent, and this is their first year going in under independent as an independent team, just like Notre Dame, and they're trying to get some national recognition. Coach Bronco Mendenhall thinks that he has a great team coming up this year, especially coming from quarterback Jake Heaps. They have a big game against Texas early in the season, and they're just trying to get that national recognition as an independent. Definitely look out for the Cougars this season. Now, another big story this season in college football in the offseason with Notre Dame. This is going to be the second year for Notre Dame under Coach Brian Kelly, and he has developed a great team thus far. They only lost 4 games last year. They had a pretty good year last year, getting 8 wins. This is a good team coming up, but they had to deal with some off-the-field issues with their star receiver, Michael Floyd. He had to deal with some DUI charges, and he had to end up dealing with a 1-year probation from the NCAA. Now, Coach Brian Kelly might actually take this to further action and suspend him for a couple of games, but hopefully he will not. So far, Michael Floyd has rejoined the team and decided to take the summer practices with his teammates, go headed into the two-a-day practices for Notre Dame. So hopefully if he stays out of trouble from now to the beginning of the season opener against South Florida, he probably will start for that season opener. He just needs to stay out of trouble, and they really need Michael Floyd this season. Now, some of the biggest games I want to talk about this year for these BCS Busters, starting on September 3rd, Boise State's going to be playing at Georgia. This is going to be their biggest game of the year. Definitely got to look at that. On September 10th, BYU is going to be playing against the Texas Longhorns. Like I said, BYU is trying to get that national recognition, and Texas is really trying to get back on a rebound and not get defeated by a non-BCS team. Now, this is going to be a good game that you have to watch. On September 17th, Michigan State's going to be playing at Notre Dame. Last season, Notre Dame lost to Michigan State, and Notre Dame's trying to get some vengeance, trying to get some revenge on them and go undefeated this season. That's a big game to watch. On October 22nd, USC is going to be at Notre Dame. That's a pretty good rivalry game over the past decade. They had great games between Notre Dame and USC. This should be another good one. On November 12th, TCU is going to be playing at Boise State. Now, this is probably going to be the biggest non-BCS game of the year. TCU at Boise State, because this game will pretty much decide the Mountain West Conference and whether TCU or Boise State will go undefeated and go to a BCS game, maybe in the national title, but we will see. Now, on the last game I want to talk about, November 26th, Notre Dame is going to be playing at Stanford. Brian Kelly is going to be going to California to play against Andrew Luck and the Stanford Cardinals. That's going to be a good game. For the past couple of seasons, Stanford and Notre Dame has some great games, and I think this is going to be another great game. Now, some impact players I want to talk about. I already mentioned Michael Floyd. He had over 1,000 yards receiving last season and 12 touchdowns, and I think he could bring up his stats this season and break some Notre Dame records as a career receiver. He's a great prospect for the NFL, and I know everybody's going to be looking at him. Now, hopefully he doesn't be suspended for the first couple of games of the season, but that's all on the shoulders of Brian Kelly. He's going to make that decision, and I'll keep you posted on that. Kellen Moore, he's the star quarterback for Boise State, 3,800 yards passing last season, 35 touchdowns. He has great passing efficiency, one of the top passing efficient quarterbacks in the nation, and he's definitely a Heisman frontrunner this season. You definitely got to keep an eye on him. And his teammate running back, Doug Brown, last season he rushed for over 1,200 yards and had 12 touchdowns. He's a great running back, 6 yards per carry, and he's going to be carrying the load for the Boise State running game. Now, Kellen Moore and Doug Martin's going to have two new receivers starting with them alongside it on the offensive side. Last season, Austin Pettis and Titus Young were their leading receivers, but they're no longer with the team because they had a jump shift to the NFL, and Doug Martin's going to be very needed very much this season in that running game. In the MAC conference, I got to talk about Eric Page. For the past couple of seasons, his freshman and sophomore year, he had over 1,000 yards receiving. Last season, he was a return specialist All-American. He's a great player to watch in the MAC conference, and I definitely had to talk about him. Staying in the MAC conference, I got to talk about Vinny Curry, the defensive end out of Marshall. He was one of the top 10 defensive end in the nations last season with 12 sacks. He's a great pass rusher, and a lot of NFL teams is definitely going to keep an eye on him. Going on to the Sun Belt Conference, I got to talk about Corey Robinson, their freshman star quarterback. He had a great freshman year last season, 3,700 yards passing, 28 touchdowns with 15 interceptions. He had a great freshman campaign, and I think he's going to have a great career at Troy. Now, staying at Troy, they also have a great pass rusher on the defensive side as well, Jonathan Massaquoi. He was ranked in the nation as well in sacks with 13.5. I believe third in the nation in sacks, and he's a great pass rusher. So Troy has pretty much a good team, and I think they're the favorite to win the Sun Belt Conference this season. A couple other players I want to talk about, actually in the west coast of the nation, San Diego State. The Aztecs, they have a great quarterback in Ryan Lindley. He had over 20 touchdown passes last season, and they have an outstanding freshman running back who is returning this year, Ronnie Hillman. 1,500 yards last season with 17 touchdowns. Now, they're going to lead that Aztec offense, and you definitely need to keep an eye on them, and I got something to say about them just a little bit later on. Now, a couple of breakthrough players I want to talk about. I mentioned Jake Heaps earlier. Now, he's a pretty good quarterback, 15 touchdowns with 9 interceptions as a freshman. He's a good quarterback, and he had a big game against UTEP in that New Mexico Bowl, passing for 4 touchdowns and I believe 1 interception. Yes, he had 1 interception, but he had a big game, and he actually showed some spark at that quarterback position, and he's going to be a good leader for this team in the future for the Cougars. Now, you definitely got to look out for him. Now, a couple other players I need to talk about are running backs, starting with Ed Wesley from Texas Christian, TCU. He's a great running back. Now, Texas Christian, they're having a new quarterback leading the team, Casey Pacho. Andy Dalton's now with the NFL, so they need a new quarterback, and Ed Wesley needs to step up as a running back. He had over 1,000 yards last season, and I think he could get to the 1,500-yard mark as a junior. Definitely keep an eye on him. Another running back to look at is Robbie Rouse, the running back from Fresno State. He was another 1,000-yard rusher, and he's in the same situation as of Ed Wesley. He has to have another quarterback taking going under center, taking snaps, because Ryan Colburn is no longer with the team. He is now he had to leave because he's ineligible. He was a senior last season. So Robbie Rouse is definitely going to need to step up this year in the running game attack. And also, I need to bring up a familiar name, Bernard Pierce. Last season, he kind of faded away, rushed for just 800 yards compared to his freshman season, where he had national recognition and everybody knew who he was, rushing for over 1,300 yards and leading Temple to a great season and almost actually getting a shot to win that MAC championship. He's a great running back, and he needs to get back to that freshman season and spark up this year. And I think he could do that if he stays healthy and stays fit for this season. And another player, a familiar player I need to talk about, very familiar, and a lot of people actually forgot about him. Case Keenum, the quarterback out of Houston. Now, he's a prolific passer. He has the opportunity to break a lot of passing records in the NCAA history. He's a great quarterback. He has that fifth year eligibility. He was hurt last season due to injuries, the season-ending injury. Unfortunate for that, but he's coming back this year for another 5th year of eligibility, and and I believe he's gonna break a lot of records in the NCAA. Definitely look out for him, and he's probably one of the front runners for the Offensive Player of the Year for the Conference USA Conference. Definitely look out for all these players. Now, these are great teams to talk about, and I need to give you all of my award winners, my winners for each of these conferences. I'm not going to give you individual award winners, but I'm going to tell you the winners of each conference in my opinion. Starting with the WAC conference. Now, this is pretty much of a coin toss because a lot of these teams are rebuilding. Some of the top teams, they have to start off with new quarterbacks, except for Hawaii. Bryant Munoz is coming back, and I think Hawaii is going to win that WAC conference. In the Sun Belt Conference, I'm going to go with Troy. They have a good defensive end, and Massaquoi, and their quarterback Corey Robinson is a great quarterback, and I think he's going to do well in his career at Troy. So I have to go with Troy on this one. On the Mountain West, I'm going to go with Boise State over TCU. And it's really between these two teams, and I have to go with Boise State because Kellen Moore, he's a great quarterback, and Casey Patchell, this is his first year starting, and I do not know how well he's going to perform this season, even though TCU does have a great defense. But Boise State has beaten them before, and Kellen Moore, this is his senior year, and he wants to win with a bang. Conference USA champion, I'm going to go with SMU. They lost last season in the conference championship matchup against UCF, Central Florida, but I think this year they're going to get back and win it all. And I have to go with SMU because June Jones is a good coach. And I have to go with the Mustangs. The MAC conference, this is pretty much of a coin toss, but I'm going to go with Northern Illinois. They lost to Miami of Ohio in that championship game last season, but I think Chandler Harnish, their star quarterback, is going to come back for his senior year and have a pretty good senior campaign, getting them back to that MAC championship and winning it all. So I have to go with Northern Illinois. Now, my overall national champion, I haven't given you my overall national champion out of all the conferences in college football. I really believe that the Oklahoma Sooners are going to win it all and stay undefeated and stay #1 nationally. This is a great team, so many weapons coming back, offensively and defensively. Now, some people might think Alabama, an SEC school, will win it all, but I had to go against Alabama because of their quarterback situation. They have a big battle between A.J. McCarron and Phillip Sims. Now, we don't know how well these two will perform. They do have a great defense and a great, arguably the best running back coming back this year, and Trent Richardson, but the quarterback situation is a little iffy with me, and Oklahoma has all the tools. They have good running backs. Ryan Broyles is coming back, and they have a great leader at quarterback in Landry Jones, and they have a good defense as well, but led by Travis Lewis. So I got to give a shout out to a friend of mine, Oklahoma's OU Sooner 56. He's a fellow YouTuber. He's a big OU fan. Definitely check out his blogs as well. He's a great guy, and definitely I got to give a shout out for his team. You got a great team this year, and I'm going to be rooting for you guys. But my Texas Longhorns will be seeing you in that Cotton Bowl matchup in Dallas later on in October. Definitely got to give a shout out for you. Now, my sleeper of the entire BCS Busters, I'm going to go with San Diego State because of Ronnie Hillman and Ryan Lindley. They have a great offense. Yes, they do have new receiving core coming this season because their top receivers also left for the NFL. Vincent Brown and DeMarco Sampson, they're no longer with the team, but I believe that they're going to get good, reliable receivers for quarterback Ryan Lindley, and I think they're going to have a big year. Yes, they're in they have a tough schedule, but I think that if they go undefeated, they can make it to a BCS game because they have a couple of tough matchups like TCU and Boise State. So definitely look after the Aztecs this season. Now, I'm going to keep you posted on all the latest news in college football, and keep you posted week after week with my pre-game predictions and my post-game videos, and I'll keep you posted on all of my blogs this year in college football, as well as fantasy football for all you fantasy bloggers out there. From Sports News Insider, thank you for watching today's blog. I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.